So the whole border crossing situation was interesting. Mexico does not require American citizens to have a visa to enter the country, but you still have to get a permission, which is effectively a visa. It's called an FMM. It stands for migration form, something like that in Spanish. And it has to be filled. You have to fill it out. A customs officer has to approve it, and then they tell you how many days you're allowed to be in the country. And they're allowed to give you up to 180 days. And if you request for less than 7 days, it's issued to you free. But if it's more than that, it's about $30 per FMM. So we knew, since our goal is to go to La Paz and spend a month there before we head back home, be in Mexico for approximately 6 weeks. We knew we wanted to get an FMM for at least 45 days to give us a little bit of wiggle room. So we go to the border crossing at Tijuana, and it's been a long time since I've been through there. I was probably 7 or 8 years old, riding in the car with my mom and dad. Things have changed. We get in there, and the first thing we see is there's a lane. If you have things to declare to customs that you're importing, or you're bringing more than your allotted amount of material, which we weren't, so we went to the lane that we had nothing to declare. You go in place where they take a picture of your car, and then there is a light in front of you and a crossing arm. If it turns green, the crossing arm goes up. You go on through. If it's red, then that means you have to go forward to an inspection. And they just randomly pop up a red light to inspect, to make sure that you are not lying and that you actually have nothing to declare. We pulled up, got the picture taken, green light comes on, the arm goes up, drive on through. There's custom agents waving us on through. We go through, we're looking for the place to stop and get our FMM, so that way we can proceed on south. And we pop through on the other side, and we are in Tijuana. There, we have not seen any customs office or agency, and we're really confused at this point, because we're like, we know we need to do this. Technically, everyone who goes into the country is supposed to get this, although we understand if you're going to be there for less than 7 days and you're right there on the border, they don't stress about it too much. But I knew going to La Paz, there had to be at least 2 military checkpoints. Good chance they'd ask for it. And I don't know about any of you guys, I don't want to spend any time in a Mexican prison, so I want to make sure I have every I dotted and every T crossed. We drove around, found a place to pull off, looked to see if we had possibly missed something, couldn't find anything that we'd missed. We looked online and saw that possibly we could get our FMM at the airport. We drove to the airport, walked in, finally found where the customs office was. A young woman was at the desk. She was obvious she did not want to be there, that this was not her favorite place to be. And as soon as she found out that we had crossed a land border, she said, "I can't help you, you need to go there," and walked away as she was speaking, so we couldn't even ask her any questions. So we got back in the car, we typed in the border crossing, tried to get there, and of course, really the only thing we could do at that point was go back into the United States. And so we got in the lane, went through the United States. The U.S. Customs agent was very nice to deal with, looked at our passports, made sure that we were the only ones there, asked us a few questions. We went on through. So we'd left right after breakfast, and when we got done with this process at this point, it was about 3 o'clock, and I was exhausted. This border crossing has been the biggest source of stress for the whole trip. And I said, you know what, I'm not up for trying again to see what's going on. Let's go get dinner, let's go get a different hotel. We'll reassess what's going on. So we did, we grabbed dinner, we went to a hotel, we sat down, we did some research, and we came to the conclusion, when we cross, we just need to ask the customs or border guard where to park. So we got up the next morning, got all our stuff together. Again, we head to the border, same lane. We speak to the person who's there. He says, "Oh no, just keep going, just keep going." Pull up to the next customs officer. He actually gets unhappy with us. We're blocking the road. Go forward, it's there. And once again, we are now popped over on the other side. They did not direct us to an office. They just wanted us out of the way. We can't find where this office is. So we just go immediately get in the border crossing again to go to the United States. This time it's about lunch when we pass through. And we sit down and we get situated and we realize Tijuana is not going to be the place where we're going to cross, because if we can't get an FMM, we can do this game of going in and out, over and over again, but it's not going to be helpful at all. So we considered that perhaps we should cross at Mexicali. Got in the car, headed in the California side to Mexicali. We stopped at a rest area and we're doing more research because, at this point I'm really, really stressed. Almost overwhelmed to the point where I just want to turn around and go home, because the idea of taking my family across the border and then exposing them to getting into trouble, being detained, going to jail, even if it's temporarily, was just almost more than I could deal with. And we found a lot of people said that Tecate is a lot nicer to cross at. It's much smaller, the people are more helpful, and that the place where you get your FMM is right there at the border. You can just go on in. Hey, let's make this as easy on ourselves as possible. So we, at that point, changed course, which thankfully really wasn't a big change. It just meant heading south instead of east at that point. So we headed south, very pretty drive, much smaller population, much more rural, pretty winding roads on mountains. For those of you who've been in that part of California, it's actually pretty high elevation, 5, 6, 7,000 feet. Get down to the border crossing, pull in, and we asked someone what to do, and they said, okay, this is what you do. You're going to continue driving through just like normal. You're going to park somewhere in town, and you're going to walk back in. So same as Tijuana, in that you have to choose your lane. We chose a lane with nothing to declare, spoke to someone, pulled on through, found a place to park about 3 blocks away, walked back. We're directed to the customs office. He gave us our forms to fill out. We filled them all out. He actually helped us fill out the forms. A total of 8 of us, so a lot of forms to fill out. Then we take those forms, go out of the office, next door to a bank teller kiosk. We actually pay the bank separately, not at the customs office. Take that receipt, go back into the customs office. He stamps all our stuff. He gave us 180 days. I only requested 45. Gave us 180 days. He said, really enjoy your time in Mexico. Very nice experience. By that point, again, it's about 2 or 3 o'clock. So we decided we're going to head towards our intended destination of San Felipe, but I really didn't want to drive through Mexico at night. And by the time we got to Mexicali, it was quite dark. So we stopped, we got a hotel. That in itself was an experience. We did it online as we were approaching. I thought I had picked one that was kind of on the way. I don't know if I misread the map or what was going on, but I got one that was actually very close to the border. So when we got there, it was the hotel. Then behind it was an alleyway, train tracks, and then behind that, the border wall. That's how close it was to the border. And it was a sketchy neighborhood. I grew up in Glendale, done a lot of stuff in Los Angeles, visited my grandmother in North Hollywood, been to Tijuana, and this area I found very, very sketchy. We almost just abandoned it, but I thought I'm going to go in and see what's going on. Went in and talked to them. They had separate parking with security so they could control who went in and out. And inside of the hotel was a restaurant. So once we went in there, nobody would have to leave. Felt like, we're tired. It's dark. It's late. I don't know that I can pick a better place, and we've already paid, so the money's gone no matter what. Decided to give it a shot. Turned out to be a pretty good experience. The restaurant was very nice. Older hotel. Not as nice a condition as what we're used to in the United States, but still functional. Restaurant was very nice, people very nice, food was very good. Everybody was safe through the night. Got up the next morning, and that's when we actually felt like, okay, we're in Mexico, and now this journey in another culture has begun.